All right, so you just got involved in the sport of Schutzhund, and it might take over your life because it's so super fun. Now, when I'm talking about Schutzhund, of course, I also mean IGP and IPO because old European men like to change the name every couple years. So who knows what it'll be called next, but it's all the same thing. It's a 3-phase sport. You've got tracking, obedience, and protection. The amount of training needed in each phase is typically in that order. So you're gonna wanna do the most repetitions of tracking, followed by obedience, and then despite what you're tempted to do, the thing you need the least of is protection. Not that you don't need it, you do, but you really need to get your reps in with tracking and obedience. But don't worry, tracking is, unlike what I was told when I first started out, it's really easy to do anywhere. You don't need it to be done at a certain time of the day or at a perfect spot. As long as it's not like spiky ground, as long as it's comfortable for the dog, track there. You can track at 2 p.m. You don't have to get up at 4 a.m. Auntie Jones' yard, the public park, center dividers. Okay, maybe not center dividers unless you're really brave, but if you find a nice, clean little plot, then get your reps in. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. So in this sport, why do we track? A lot of people are like, oh, we should take out tracking because it's hard to find. It's not hard to find. Tracking is important to our sport for a couple reasons. For one, it measures your dog's stability. So we've got these high drive working dogs that love to work, that love to be active, but it's important that they also can concentrate, calm down, and really focus, and that's what tracking does. So it's a really good breeding indicator too for a dog that has control over their nerves and can really stabilize. In addition, of course, to having a good nose and finding the scent. So the next phase is obedience. And what you might notice is there's a lot of heeling. So it's not just the heeling routine where you're going fast, slow, turns, under gunfire, distractions, heeling through people, but you're also heeling on your way to anything else that you do, like your retrieves on the flat or you're retrieving over the jump. So heeling's a really important part, and you're gonna wanna start on that ASAP. And it's really easy. Again, like tracking, you need to get in a lot of reps and you need a lot of time. It generally doesn't happen within a few months, but it's fun. So who cares, right? Then you're also gonna need the dog to understand sit, down, and stand. So when you're heeling, you're gonna give a command and they need to understand the word and recognize it and then do it. You're also gonna have to show that your dog can come when called and then finish into a heel position so that you can start your next exercise. After your retrieves where the dog will bring the item back to you, sometimes over a jump, you're gonna finish with the send away where the dog gets to run as fast as they can to the end of the field and then stop when you ask them to. So the final phase, and generally the one that the handlers and of course the dogs love the most, is protection, because for them it's a big game. No, this is not the type of protection that allows you to go walk down a dark alley in the middle of the night. So don't go thinking your dog is gonna become Rin Tin Tin after some Schutzhund protection. That's not what it's about. It's really only to show what the dog's potential is, not actually teach them to bite people. Real working dogs are required to go through totally different training to become those street patrol dogs. Our sport dogs are only trained and conditioned to do this in a very specific situation on the field. They should always be stable, under control, and ultimately safer than even your average pet dog. The guys who get in the sleeve are called helpers, and that's because they help the judge in the trial determine what the dog's genetic capacity is. These helpers are sometimes more of a trial helper where they're just helping during the competition, and then you have the training helpers who really help bring up a dog and prepare a dog and get it ready for that trial. And with that type of helper, it's really important that they, one, know the difference between the drives, that they also keep them separate. so they're not mixing drives up all the time, and maybe most importantly, that they understand the goal of the dog while they're in each drive. All helpers should read Helmut Reiser's book, Der Schutzhund. The very beginning portion is a theory portion, and it still holds up today. It was a book written a long time ago. So the training portion, don't do that, but the beginning portion explaining why a dog does what it does in aggression is really important, and there's no reason that every helper should not read that. You guys have to read that if you want to be a helper, because this is the guy who really brought up Schutzhund. He's the grandfather of Schutzhund, and he was spot on when he described what dogs do, why they do it when they are in different types of aggression. So you don't need a ton of protection, and it's really one of those things where you want quality over quantity. For example, in the trial, the judge really wants the dog to bark at the bad guy's face. The tendency, of course, is that the dog wants to look at the sleeve because that's where he gets bit. So it makes sense for him. So if your helper is accidentally rewarding the dog by letting him bite when he's looking at the sleeve, then you're gonna have a dog who tends to wanna look at that sleeve instead of bring all the pressure to the helper. And that can be really hard to fix. It can take a long time. So be sure that you are encouraging your helper to seek out new information, to get better, to improve, and at the same time be understanding that everybody's learning throughout this process. But a solid sign that a helper is on the right track is someone who's always looking to people who have more accomplishments than they do, whether it's trainers or helpers, and are always trying to improve themselves instead of stay in their little comfort zone. So encourage your helpers, help them to get the knowledge they need to help everybody else's dog. That learning just should never stop. And when knowledge is shared and when people communicate and learn from each other, everybody wins, especially the dog. So the main goal in Schutzhund is, of course, to show the dog's genetic potential, but really to show the teamwork between you and your dog. Your dog should be running to the place that you train, excited to work, excited to go to that training field or shop where they know they're going to get to train with you, not avoiding that area at all. And this means when you go to your first trial, you're going to have more consistency because the dog really wants to be there and wants to work with you. Now, trials are important because they give you the chance to show what you've been working on. So for years, you're going to be working on this stuff, and it's really exciting for the first time to go to the trial and just show what you guys have been doing. And more importantly, it lets you know where you're at, if you're on the right road, if you're on the right pathway to training. And most likely you're going to have some things that you are really happy with and some things that you're maybe a little more disappointed with. But that's the beauty of a trial. It shows you what to change and what to continue with. It also keeps you a little bit humble. So don't do all this training and then never go to trial. You want to push yourself and challenge yourself and get back on the training field after the trial and fix the things that you weren't so happy with. And that is the really addicting part of this sport.
Hey! Gang!